I Can Honestly Say, written by Fanny Fleming, read by Drew Grimm. I can honestly say, for most of my life, I've had no real fears on this earth. That ended in the spring of 1981. My home, in Littleton, Colorado, has become a haven for something not of this world. It all started with the small spectacle of a meteor shower shortly after midnight. My town and home state have been under quarantine ever since, almost a year now. The Army and Air Force will kill anything that gets close to the barricades. It took me some time, but I found a way through, I believe. I'm going to New Mexico to link with my brother Peter. God, I hope he's safe. His last message was terrifying. Get to me now. Meteor showers reported worldwide. My name is Walter Simmons. Most people call me Walt. Most of those people are gone now. I arm myself with a revolver and scan my property. After a year of this, my instincts are fine-honed. Any person who appears in my view will be deemed an enemy. Over the course of the last year, the entire population of my town had become overtaken by something unseen. The change happens quickly, a contagion that was unstoppable, and I was the last man standing. Were they pod people, or was it alien bugs crawling in people's ears? A thinking virus, perhaps? My brain has thought of countless possibilities. Once the change happens, though, they begin working together like army ants. The screams of my neighbors who struggled to defend themselves continue to haunt my dreams. If I hadn't been rock climbing that morning, I doubt I would have survived the initial wave. They can still bleed and die after they change. God forgive me. I've had to put down dozens. One of them was my newspaper boy, Eric. I can still see the wax look on his face as he charged me with his mouth open, not saying a word. Things were coming out of his eyes and hands. I've always been very good at percentages and calculations. I knew that 99% of the universe remained unknown. And 11 months ago, some part of that 99% had dropped square on my head. My father had taught me and Peter to survive almost any human contingency. Nothing on earth had prepared us for this. They don't seem to like the sunlight and prefer to operate at night. I have just enough daylight to make it to the tunnel before they come out in force. They don't attack the barricades much anymore. I guess they were just waiting for reinforcements. I start my Land Rover and push the gas pedal to the floor. As a boy, I was curious and athletic. I enjoyed reading history books and excelled at most sports my father pushed me and Peter into. My father had a keen sense of right and wrong and made sure to enforce it on both his sons. Peter took it the worst. Grueling summers of survival training in West Virginia were nothing to look forward to as a child. My father wouldn't tolerate weakness of any kind during those summers, his sons would be prepared for whatever lies ahead. So it seemed completely on course when I joined the Marines after high school. Vietnam would be my testing ground. On guard duty in the dead of night, a decoy had been deployed by the enemy. A crying child holding a bucket that seemed too heavy. Assuming it was water, I knelt to assist. The bucket, which contained oil, was dumped over my legs and boots. The girl produced a match, and I was lit like a tall piece of kindling. The fire spread instantly. I was spared only because of the quick actions of my fellow Marines. My face was left untouched, but my remaining flesh would be compromised for the rest of my life. Peter helped a lot when I returned, but after a time, he fell in love and started a family. Moving to the desert seemed fitting for him. He always hated the cold of Colorado. I now had to try to reach him in New Mexico. It was the only rational thought I could muster. For the entire period since the meteor strike, there has been no contact from the outside world, except for the barricades. Peter and I managed to communicate through very short Morse code signals on a CB radio channel we've had since we were kids. 5 miles outside of Cannon Air Force Base in Clovis, New Mexico, a lone man is positioned on a bluff focusing high-powered binoculars in the direction of the base. Peter Simmons, wearing desert camouflage, wasn't particularly worried about being seen. Though night, Cannon was lit up like a Hollywood production. He was lost in the darkness and could see them just fine. If what Walt was telling him was true, and he wasn't suffering from a PTSD episode, the takeover in Colorado is happening worldwide now. I drive off-grid now, silently running through a mental checklist of my portable arsenal. I tried not to calculate the probability of the spread of whatever was coming from those meteors, focusing my mind and muscle to gain as much ground as possible in 3 hours. Late afternoon would bring the patrols of the pod people. Paired in twos like Noah's Ark, they walked grid patterns on foot and drove the main roads. When they made visual contact with people unchanged, they charged them by whatever means they could. Driving down Deer Park Trail, I spot a 10-year-old boy in a Boy Scout's uniform. He sees me and charges my Land Rover. I close my eyes and grit my teeth while running him over. Peter was considered the brains of the family, while Walt the brawn. Their father made no such distinctions between his boys. Peter knew he had 2 options: to bunker down with his family and literally wait for Walt, the only other holder of the hidden bunker's location, or travel off-grid to try to meet his brother halfway. Orders from the government for martial law had been issued ever since more meteor showers appeared worldwide. Orders were for every American citizen to harbor in place. Peter grinned as he prepped, determined to rescue Walt and any he could. He headed off on his ATV towards the direction Walt would be coming from. Peter listens to a portable radio while riding across the desert. The military has begun to bomb all major U.S. cities. Europe and Russia are to follow suit. I make it to my tunnel in time before nightfall and leave my Land Rover behind, with supplies in a bag slung over my shoulder and a revolver in my right hand. I navigate the tunnel I've been digging for almost 6 months now. On the other side is an ATV waiting to take me to my brother's bunker. Peter drove the desert trail using a compass to navigate the vast emptiness. He is stunned to see a little boy standing in the middle of nowhere. He parks his ATV and removes his hat and gloves to help if he can. "Hey, buddy, are you okay? Did you get lost from your parents? Do you know where you are right now?" The boy raises his hand while blackish-green tendrils pour through his eyes and palms. Peter instinctively grabs his rifle, but it's too late. At the moment the tendrils contacted his skin, the transfer was complete, effectively erasing every trace of humanity, making Peter a shell of a person. Contained in that shell was the knowledge of a bunker and the humans that would be waiting there. And what he knew, the others also knew. Elizabeth rushed to the bunker door with excitement. Peter was back. Hopefully Walt was close behind him. When the door opened, she jumped in his arms and squeezed him hard. Her young children heard the screaming seconds later. Walter headed out from the tunnel, eyes adjusting to the sun coming up. In the distance, he could hear explosions happening and see mountains of smoke shooting up from the skyline. He wondered if this was the end of everything. Hidden in a bunker in Clovis, New Mexico, a welcome Walt banner falls to the floor with a sound that no one hears.